Good morning, Internet. It's SJU, Dan, Ed, Billy, and me, a 9-year-old boy. Welcome to the show. We're talking Dr. Doom. We're talking Noah Hawley. We're talking Ang Lee, my favorite comic book movie director.
Yes. Before we get started, I feel
let's talk.
I feel like I owe an apology, and the show owes an apology to the urban bat population of Austin, Texas. Yesterday,
I'm so glad I wasn't on the show yesterday.
We brought up a publicity event that was happening for Batman, and shamefully, I was not as up to snuff on the bat migration patterns in the Lone Star State as I should have been. And boy, did we hear about it. Yeah, so there's a lot of bats in Austin. Something that I didn't know, but apparently everyone else that watched the show.
And I want to thank the fans when I told them I don't care about the bats in Austin for still educating me further, because they're right. It doesn't matter if I care or not. I need to know about the bats under the bridge.
The important thing is did we learn, how many, now that you guys have been educated, how many bats are in Austin? I'm assuming they're talking about the bridge thing, where the bats come out of the bridge thing.
See, even you know about it. I don't have no idea.
I really should have been on the show yesterday.
All I heard was that 1.5 million bats were heading for Austin, and I rightfully got concerned, and apparently it's not a big deal.
I think Batman's just having to distract somebody. He's like pulling a caper, and he pulls all the bats, so he's doing that just on a major scale.
I do feel like there's a weird Oceans thing happening concurrently with this bat situation.
I want to see the Fury Road Batman. He's a Texas guy now with a little leather duster, and he rides ATV.
I like it.
I want to see that. That's sick.
ATV Batman?
Yeah.
Okay, I think we just pitched something pretty cool. Before we get into our stories, who wins in a fight? The million bats in Austin or the billion butterflies currently hoarding over Los Angeles?
Oh, you didn't know about that? There's a billion butterflies going across Los Angeles. How can you not know about that? Everyone around here is talking about it. Sorry. I saw my opening and I jumped into it.
You hit 1,000,000% of the shots that you take.
Don't miss? I don't know. Whatever.
Story number 1. New details emerge on the Dr. Doom movie. This is via Slash Film and To Her. During a panel at South by Southwest, I always think that the SXSW stands for something much cooler than it does. I'm like, what weird straight edge thing? No, just South by Southwest, a film festival. Noah Hawley gave an update on the solo Dr. Doom movie that was announced at San Diego Comic-Con almost 2 years ago. The answer will shock you. It stalled.
The X should be smaller. Sorry, I was
I
just
agree.
looking at this
it's totally
for a while.
fine. I get it.
Yeah, it should be like a times.
Times,
not an
yeah.
X.
Maybe that's how they abbreviate. I'm not making any more assumptions when it
About
comes to
Texas.
Austin. I'm just going to say maybe South by Southwest abbreviates it that way and no one else
The
does.
migratory patterns of X's and words.
I think the South by Southwest logo, anytime it's in print, should just be represented by several bat emojis.
Yeah, I agree.
And you're like, oh, South by. We're talking South by. So, okay, Dr. Doom stalled. Shock.
Yeah.
The Fargo and Legion creator revealed that he had even met with Marvel Studios chief Kevin Feige, who inquired whether Hawley was still working on the script. When Hawley replied, should I be working on it? A very Kevin Feige answer was given, in that no concrete answer was given. So I'm assuming, should I finish working on this script was,
I'll give you the Kevin Feige answer.
please.
See Noah Hawley.
Hey, I'm creative genius Noah Hawley. Should I finish this Dr. Doom script?
Dr. Doom is one of the keystone characters of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I think that it would be fantastic if somewhere along the line there was a film centered around that character who's meant so much to the fans across the years.
And then I'm assuming after that Noah Hawley walked out of the room with Aubrey Plaza and one half of the Flight of the Conchords, and they all just like cha-cha'd to like an old-timey car. I really like Legion, and you should watch it.
Like, okay, but do I finish this? Like, am I getting paid? No. Oh, okay, bye.
That is a
Kevin.
weird end of a meeting, right? Like,
but we've all had those meetings where it's like you go in and you're like, I need to know what's going on, and you get some spin, and then you walk out and you're like,
what just happened?
Yeah, like, okay, but do I still have a job? I guess I'll come back tomorrow.
I like that Kevin Feige is every old-timey, worn-out sitcom trope about wives. Like he is. Like any sitcom, like any Tim Allen, like oh man, she's just dancing circles around me. Like Kevin Feige is all of those tropes like rolled into one hat-wearing sitcom husband character somehow.
He's tricky.
He's a tricksy man.
He's got it down. He's got it down pat.
He really, and everyone's just like,
Well, but let's look at some of these plot details, because this is ridiculous.
Okay, so let's
All
do
right.
it. Holly said during the... Thank you for pulling me out of this riff hell that I was falling into. Holly said during the panel, as he had before, that he envisions Doctor Doom as a geopolitical thriller more than a standard superhero movie. It begins with Doom putting a dome over Latveria, which those two words should never be close to each other because they're hard to say. It begins with a Doom dome over Latveria, the fictional European country he rules. He later invites a female journalist to be his voice to the world, meaning its protagonist would be someone without superpowers.
Okay.
Okay.
So you're not on board.
So
with
it's
that.
like, so it's about Doom manipulating a reporter.
It sounds like Dracula. It sounds exactly like Dracula. Like there's a big dude in a castle. He brings you over to dinner. He doesn't eat because he eats magic or whatever. You know what I mean?
He does eat magic. That's true. That's canon.
Bram Stoker's and Greer.
We're being glib. Please don't correct this in the comments.
No, Doctor Doom eats magic.
That's
That
canon.
is a fact.
It's part of this balanced breakfast.
Just cutting up some bands of cider rack. This is tasty. He's trying to relate.
2 pieces of toast.
Yeah, and he's trying to relate to Amy Adams. You know, it's so ridiculous. I really just think, but it's one of those things where they've boxed themselves in. They try to introduce.
They dome themselves in.
Well, yeah, they box themselves into like having to do some weird take like this because they failed twice. Fox did at least at doing Doctor Doom versus the Fantastic Four, so they feel as though they have to do something like this. Dollars to Donuts, this doesn't happen, and I know about donuts, obviously. I really don't think this. I think this remains stalled. This is that car on a Tennessean's front yard. Not all Tennesseans. Don't at me in the chat.
Most of us, though.
But you know what I'm saying?
It's fine.
That's the car in the front yard. It's not going to start.
So with the Disney with Disney looking to take over Fox officially on 3/20.
One week from today.
Oh God, yeah. Fuck, D-Day happens 1 week from today.
D-Day happens. You have one more week to go see Alita before you're just giving the money over to Disney too. So get it in now, because
That Alita as a protest money, or as like a protest vote, was hilarious.
Well, it also worked.
I see.
just as a PSA, just in case people weren't aware.
Anyway.
1 week on the clock.
Yeah. So there's always a chance, of course, that the script could be used as a way to introduce the character. Although at this point, I don't know how many of the they've just always been here cards Marvel can play now. We've now sort of we've seen the original Ant-Man, in the past. Steve Rogers' Shield sort of growing in the past. Captain Marvel now in the 90s. Like, I don't know how, especially with like the magical superpowered leader of like a weird country. It's like, oh yeah, we haven't been focused on Doctor Doom a whole lot lately. What with all the aliens and such.
They're gonna clear the boards, I think, coming up somehow.
Post-Endgame?
At least Fox. They're gonna clear the Fox board. I was convinced that New Mutants was coming out. It's like, why would you shoot a movie and then reshoot a movie and never release it?
No.
But I'm now becoming more and more convinced that it will never see a theatrical release, just because the reshoots were months ago.
Yeah.
Like,
I think if anything, Disney Plus
Hulu.
TV
yeah,
movie
or Hulu or
yeah.
something. So I in a world where I'm not even so sure they're going to actually release the movies that they have filmed, I really don't think they're going to make a movie that isn't even made, is already not really going anywhere, and they're going to want to bring Doctor Doom into the MCU. They're going to want to bring the Fantastic Four. The Fantastic Four board is already cleared. They're going to be, so they're going to want to clear the Doctor Doom board. They don't want to take him off the table and then put him back on the table. I think they're going to want to take as many pieces and bring him into their side as they can. So I love Noah Hawley. I love his TV shows. I think he's a really, really talented creator, but I don't think this is going to happen.
Well, and also they have a guy who can rewrite reality, or did rewrite reality. Obviously, the Infinity Gauntlet is broken, but the big fight or whatever, time travel, whatever manipulation they're gonna have to do to get everybody to come back. I just feel like it would be really sick if that was what was used to. What Marvel always does with the Secret Wars and stuff, they consolidate universes, they collapse them, like you're merging some documents or whatever.
Yeah.
They do that all the time.
Yeah, that sort of segs us into the next thing, because I think these movies, New Mutants, these are all just going to be fodder for like the comic book movies that never were, for like the next, for YouTube videos for the next 10 years. That said, like, let's talk Doom in the MCU. Like, how do you do it? How do you bring him in?
I mean, realistically, I'm a big fan of the. I know people say that they belong in the '60s and all that jazz, but even if they were like in the '60s and they weren't quite as overt as they were, and they had some star-spanning adventure that has them come back, Captain Marvel style, spoilers, has them come back 20, 30 years later as people out of time, and they're like, "Hey, what's up with these new dudes? All these new dudes and mutants and stuff. This is crazy new world, man. We're just a bunch of old dudes. We're just, oh man, you know." They can really play that thing like, oh, candy bars cost more than a nickel. This is nuts. But these dudes have time machines and jazz. Like these old timey dudes with time machines and star spanning multiverse technology that Tony Stark and them are like, whoa, you cracked that in the '60s? Yeah, man. Then we went away. You know,
so
something like that.
You kind of make him like race Bannon-y almost.
Yeah, something like that.
Just square jawed and like, come on, scouts. Or
And I don't know how you do Doctor Doom. Maybe Doctor Doom is like the Joker. He like fought them a long time ago, and then he sees them come back, and he's like, nah, and he puts the mask back on. He had taken it off for a while. He puts it back on and sears it back, and he's like, yeah, I'm back, baby. It's time to fight the Fantastic Four.
My old nemesis.
Yeah, I was taking a break on that Avenger stuff. I don't know. See, that's where it gets tricksy because obviously I'm not Kevin Feige. So I don't know how you, like you guys are talking about, where were they at? What's all this? Even if you do a reality overwrite, there's still a lot of writing to be done, even after saying that.
The X-Men, I think, are a really easy point of entry because you don't have to do anything weird. I see a lot of people on Twitter like, oh, I really hope the Snap introduces Fox's X-Men lineup and like some weird reality thing happens. That's way too complicated. Like Stan Lee made up the X-Men because they ran out of origin ideas, literally. And so they were just like, what if people were just mutants and they were just born with powers? So you just introduce that idea.
There's only so many times you can be standing in front of chemicals.
Yeah, exactly.
As you do on a daily basis.
Which happens a lot in the Marvel universe.
Look, it depends on how. Because they have to be careful that they don't tread the line of like Inhuman. Because I mean, look, I don't know how much they give a crap about not stepping on the toes of stuff they've already done, like in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But that was a big part of it. So it's like you obviously don't want to do the exact same thing in Inhumans. And part of me and a lot of people think that the Inhumans was kind of their version of the X-Men when getting the X-Men was not really going to be a possibility.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that maybe you can even see seeds of, could this deal even be, or were they even in like general discussions for this deal way back when Inhumans got knocked to television from the big screen? You know, it's interesting.
In terms of like Fantastic Four, man, that's a tough one because I know I'm in the minority, definitely in the minority of this one, but I think that like the first Fantastic Four, the 2005 one, is actually pretty close to the tone of like what the Fantastic Four is. The Fantastic Four is just not like a lot of these other Marvel heroes. Like it is more of like a family / kid centric franchise. It's Marvel's first family. I liked what they did with Doctor Doom for the most part. I think it kind of got sloppy and weird, especially when you put in part 2, and then it's like they were trying to have two versions of the same character at the same time. But I don't know how that Fantastic Four is the one that I would be most excited about, but also the one that I'd be like, I don't know how to do this, because the way that you probably should do it is the way that people are going to crap on it. And then they went 180, tried to do the other way, and I know other circumstances got in the way, but it's like the super dark, morose Fantastic Four is like, well, that's really not in the spirit of what Fantastic Four is.
Ben Grimm is a Black Ops agent.
Right.
It's clobbering time.
I don't know.
As there's just red mist spraying, everyone's like, ah!
I don't know how to appease people with Fantastic Four, because if I were going to do it, I'd be like, man, 2005 one is probably the route that I would have gone to try to do that.
Yeah. And I honestly don't remember enough about that movie. I don't like.
I liked it,
gone
like,
in my head.
but also
I sort of
it's-
remember the dancing, and that's kind of it.
That's the second one.
Oh, is that the second one?
That's
Oh,
Silver
okay.
Surfer.
Well, they
yeah.
ran into
Okay.
the classic Doctor Doom problem, and everybody in the chat knows I'm an anti-magite. I don't do. I don't.
You don't like magic?
I don't deal with magic, bro. And Doctor Doom has magic as a core part of his character. If you've ever read any real canon Doctor Doom stuff, it's his way of superseding science. It's the other science. So having a dude like that, you saw what they did in the 2013 movie. He's just, I mean, in all of them, he's like Electro. Or a dude with gravity powers.
Right.
So they just stay all the way away from evil
Yeah.
Iron Man with magic breakfast. They stay away from
Yeah.
that, and that's what he is, and that's a hard thing to put on screen.
But what the MCU has done really well is this idea all the way back to like the first Thor movie.
Yeah.
It's like there is no magic. It's just science that you don't understand.
I get that.
So I feel like that's kind of the way that you could go with it. Even Doctor Strange to a certain extent, it's like, yeah, this is just like dimensions that other people are not tapped into.
Other dimensional beings with
Right.
other dimensional energies that you can tap. Yeah, I
Right.
get that.
Yeah, I think, and I think maybe you could pull off the idea that like, while everything else in the MCU has been going on, this guy has been on his like slow burn. Maybe if his movie is like part flashback, part like present day when he actually takes power of this country. That sort of build of from like failed scientist to then he maybe starts to fall into studying all the Norse Midgard stuff.
Well, I gotta
and
say,
then magic
what-
comes in that way.
My only real hot take on Captain Marvel is I think we see in that movie, as good or whatever you think of it as it was, the origin story is there for a reason. Everybody says they're so damn tired of origin stories, but guess what? You try to tell Doctor Strange as a bunch of damn flashbacks and
Yeah.
see how good that movie is. Try to tell Ant-Man as a bunch of damn flashbacks
Yeah, no, that's
and
fair.
montages and see how good that does. It does not. That doesn't go.
It's kind of what Aquaman did, though.
Yeah.
Aquaman told the origin story mainly like just flashing back through the movie.
But he'd been in 2 movies. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He'd
Yeah, that
been in
little
2
setup.
movies, to be fair. He'd been in 2 movies.
Yeah.
So
To
I
be
think
fair,
they could
one
do
of
that.
them was for 13 seconds, and he does a pitchfork at a camera. He's been in 1 movie.
I don't know how much more they've developed Aquaman as a character. Hot take. You know what I'm saying? He gets drunk. He shows up. He makes the Aqua guy fight on land. He's Aquaman, but his best
that one's
fighting is
also
on
a
land.
weird
Okay.
case because the origin isn't necessarily for Aquaman. The origin is for Atlantis.
Yes.
That's the big difference for that movie.
If I think about this movie too much, my ears start to bleed again. There's so much.
There's a lot.
As soon as you guys started thinking Aquaman, I just had flashes of like thousands of sea knights on sharks shooting
Oh, dude,
lasers,
I was
and
just thinking,
"Ah!"
dude, the orcas in that world, okay, Atlantis seems to be hella deep. So an orca can hold his breath for like 25 minutes. So they go down, they have 2 seconds of partying with the
thinking about
Ewoks,
that too.
and they swim back up real fast and get the bins.
The
Like, what
orcas would have to go up. It's a very ineffective war weapon because you would have to surface.
Dude, we also
Yeah,
going up telling
yeah.
their face like, dude, this Aquaman party is dope. I'll tell you about it. And go back down, kick it for 2 seconds, come back up. Woo, this is time, boy. there's
Atlantean orcans, Ed.
yeah, there's
Atlantean
octopi.
orcans.
There's octopi playing drums. It's tight down there, bro. It's like, come
I
on,
look
man.
forward to all of the comments telling us exactly how long orcas.
Yeah, I was like, as soon as you said that, I was like, no.
How did we do this 2 days ago?
Under optimal conditions, orcas can bench press 100 tons.
Well, that's true.
I wish I could help. I've been watching Blue Planet at night to go to sleep, and I don't retain any of it. It just chills me out, and I don't learn anything. Otherwise, I wish I could have helped you. I like that we're struggling so much with how do you put the Fantastic Four in, and then we do a very quick flash review of scenes in Aquaman, where Aquaman's like, I don't give a shit! Like, here's just insanity
Yeah, maybe
on the
that's
screen.
just what you do. Maybe just plop the Fantastic Four and it's like, just watch it.
He stretches. Go, 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 go.
Yeah.
They obviously don't have a problem retconning people into the beginning of Marvel lore. They don't have any problem with that.
All
Whether
right.
it fits or not.
No, whether it fits or not.
Before we get into to our next story, I want to plug movie fights this week because I'm very excited about it. It's going to pit 2 gentlemen at this table against each other. One Billy Business
Yep.
and one Dan Murrell,
Yes.
with a very special third fighter in Christian Harloff making his
Wow.
return to movie fights. And I don't know why I just got Delicious Dish NPR about this, but I certainly did.
I have a beef with Christian that I hope I can take it out on beef he has no idea about, but I think I've told this story before where he cost me like a whole 24-hour period of having to work overtime because of something he wore to a shoot that he wasn't supposed to.
No, tell the story on air right now.
I'm going to tell it right now. I'm sorry to diverge. This was
Get
what
ready, because
Nope.
they're going to clip this, and it's going to be on Collider Live, and it's going to be a
Yeah.
thing. So
Be
get
on
ready.
Collider Live. Watch
Get
me
ready.
not watch it there.
Whoa.
So no, I've watched it once. It was cute. So when I worked at TV Guide, I used to bring in people to do like those talking head interviews.
Right.
We brought in Christian and Mark, and we said, "Hey, don't wear any shirts with logos. We can't use that footage." Walks in with a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle shirt, and it's like, that's all right, I'm prepared. So we had like a button-up dress shirt, and it was a size too small. Oops. But I was like, you can fit in it, just like it's a little uncomfortable, whatever. So he puts it on, and we do the interview, and those guys were great. Like, back in the day, I didn't really know like schmoes or anything, but I used to use them a lot because they spoke in bites, which
Yeah.
is super important. They were great at setting up a package, and they were great at putting buttons on package. So they were all over the shows. I turn in the cut to my executive producer. She loves it. It's great. By the way, this is the first show that they're like letting me run the whole show.
Yeah.
It's somehow, I don't know if this was procedure or not, but it somehow gets to the top, the tippy top, and he watches it, and it's the day before I have to deliver for all the international, all that crap, and he's like, his shirt, it's buttoned, but it doesn't fit, and there's like there's a little hole right here, like around his belly where you can see through. Can you just fix that? And I was like, yeah, let me call George Lucas and ILM and just see if I can.
There's just Jar Jar's
digitally-
face over it,
Yeah.
like Misa.
Just put an orca.
So it's like 4:30 the day before I have to turn this in, and I go to the editing booth with my editor, like, what are we going to do? We can't take them out of the show because they're great. We can't zoom in awkwardly just on them, just like weird MTV style cuts. So we went through, and he's like, what if we do this? Because it was a white button-up shirt. I was like, what if we just ever so slightly put a blur effect over it, and you can't really tell because it's white, so it blurs right over. So we did one little section. We called in like 10 people. Like, do you see anything weird in this? Do you see anything weird with this? Everyone's like, no, I don't see it. So we were like, all right, let's just blur it. We had to go frame by frame for an hour-long show and just digitally blur Christian's shirt. I was there till 3 a.m. just to get it done because I took one half of the project on one file and he
Yeah.
took the other half, and we just went line by line, blur, smooth,
And this
just
week-
because he couldn't wear a shirt.
And this week you're gonna get that time back.
Christian Harloff, I don't care. I'm probably going to lose to Dan, but I'm going to fight you for second place.
Great. I love you two go after each other, and I'll just
This is like every scene
roll
of
right
Jurassic.
into the speed round.
Every scene of Jurassic Park where two raptors have you dead to rights and they just start fighting.
Yep.
Like,
You're like,
oh,
what?
man.
Wait, what? You're like clever girl, and then she jumps over you into another raptor.
I'm going to try to find a screen cap of the blur and bring it for movie fights.
I like it.
I would blame that
I like
anal
it.
retentive executive more than I would blame Christian for that. Like,
You know, at that point, it's like it's my first show.
The twist, that executive was Mark Ellis.
Like if it was producer me now, I would have been
Yeah.
like, come on,
There's
there's
nothing
nothing
I
I'm
can
going
do.
to do.
Right. But back
First
then,
show,
yeah.
I just been bumped up from associate producer. Like, fine, you whined enough. Here's your own show. I was like, I'll do anything.
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
I'm
can't
done.
imagine. I can't imagine current Billy
Yeah.
worrying
No,
about.
I'd be like, come on, dude. There's nothing I can do.
That's true.
Well, yeah, you've learned the power of, come on, dude.
Yeah, come on, man. Come on, man.
Can't, you're right. You usually just have to execute an unreasonable demand. You can't exactly be like, no, you just have to do it.
But look, I was excited about this match before just because of the caliber of fighters, but now there was a real narrative storyline
Right.
attached to it, and that is what Movie Fights is missing. And yeah, no, personal stakes. I like this.
So personal.
That's what a real story is about.
2013 me wants that revenge
Hey.
for that night of sleep
You know
I
what?
lost.
Look, it gets in you, and it never goes away. Like,
I'm going to button up a shirt and just keep one open the whole show.
and then we'll just keep having to blur it. Story number 2. My favorite Hulk director, Ang Lee's Gemini Man, will release in high frame rate. This is via the playlist. A letter was recently sent to theater exhibitors from Paramount Pictures in preparation of Ang Lee's Gemini Man. The film, which stars Will Smith, Clive Owen, and Mary Elizabeth Winstead, that's a good cast, tells the story of an aging assassin attempting to leave the lifestyle, but finds himself hunted by a younger clone of himself. I didn't think that sentence was going to end that way. Not only is this going to require some extensive de-aging and CGI visual effects work just to make it convincing, but Lee isn't content with stopping there. He's also apparently utilizing the HFR, high frame rate technology, that he used on the aforementioned Billy Lynn. The note sent to exhibitors comes with instructions on how to test whether the theater is equipped to handle the HFR technology. The letter states the film will have versions presented in 60 frames per second 3D and 120 frames per second 2D. Ugh.
Wow.
Lee employed similar tech for Billy Lynn's
You
long
don't have to
halftime
read it
walk.
all, Joe, if you don't want to.
Well, you know what that reminds me of? Like my girl.
You put it here.
I know. I'm just saying, like,
I have
this
to read the
is
page.
contextual for you at this point.
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of. Well, this just reminds me of my girl watches like Top Chef and stuff, and they'll make some crostini encrusted tartare with the such and such glaze, and they'll be like, "Now, how you eat it is you take it like this, and you pour this on it, and you make it one big amuse bouche or whatever." It's like they're telling you how to eat it. They're telling you how to display it. But filmmakers have gotten real anal since I guess Lucas. Right. Then Lucas first started the whole hey man, I gotta have it like this and da da da.
Oh, with THX certified theaters and whatnot. I mean, look, I'm sure there are filmmakers that are like, please don't botch my movie. But I think Lucas was probably the one that's like, I'm literally gonna have a certification for it.
There are probably some old-timey directors who, that organ player, needed to be certified by a special music school before they could do that.
Like Hitchcock would probably be someone who had theater specifications.
Oh, he did. I mean,
Yeah.
there was the whole Psycho thing, which was very rare. I know a lot of people.
I don't know about this.
With Psycho, he made a rule that no one would be allowed to be seated after the first, I think it was 30 minutes of the film.
And then the first reel or whatever.
And that was very rare because it sounds odd, but the theatrical experience back then was it used to be a lot more casual because they would run the movie it used to be kind of a come and go thing. People could kind of come in late, maybe stay a little bit after, and we'll catch the first reel. It was very much more relaxed. It wasn't as regimented, and so the idea of a director saying you cannot come into this movie more than X amount of minutes before it started was number one, is great publicity, but it was also him kind of throwing his weight around and saying he was able to sort of ride the line between, hey, this is how people need to see my movie, and also this is also a great way to get people talking about it, because what happens after the first 30 minutes? I have to know. And the reason why is because Janet Leigh was gone after 30 minutes, and he didn't want people walking in going where's Janet Leigh, what's going on?
Right.
Yeah.
So Hitchcock sort of walked that line a little bit, and then there's been other kind of directors that were, William Castle being one that was all about gimmicks and no one will be seated after the first 10 shocking minutes, all of that.
Yeah.
Or what is smell-o-vision 3D, all that stuff.
And I also love how it's the new digital technology and the new cameras and stuff. I was watching this thing on Fincher, and it was he'll shoot it, and forgive me, camera dorks, but he'll shoot it in a certain ratio so that he can just hone in on the exact frame that he wants. So it'll be super wide like this, and it'll hone in on this exact thing. Or he'll do it almost like a box, like a TV format, and be able to hone in further than that, and then make that the widescreen. So he's picking these compositions even after he's already picked the initial composition. He's able to do push-ins and do different stuff with minimum image degradation because of these new cameras and stuff. So it's even leaching into the shooting. And this is obviously Ang Lee shot this a certain way, so he wants it to be displayed a certain way.
But this is strange because I'm very much especially when we're talking about streaming versus theatrical, I've always been you gotta let the new stuff in, we have to evolve and whatever. I'm gonna be a hypocrite because this is the one thing where I just films to me are your 24 frames. Anything at 30, your TV, or 60, your sports, or 120, you're a TV at Costco with the motion blur thing on. I don't necessarily want a movie to get close to 120, my human eye. It doesn't, I don't know what the disconnect is. There's probably something psychological, but.
Well, there's not. I mean, audiences largely rejected the Hobbit experiment with when Peter Jackson released the Hobbit movies in high frame rate. There was a lot of complaints. A lot of people just didn't like it. And Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk made very little money. It was not a financial success. I don't think it's because of the format, but it wasn't as if he experimented with this and it was a great rousing success. It's I want to do more with this. I mean, Movies have been around for over 100 years, and people have tried to package them in so many different ways. 3D, CinemaScope, the new round of 3D, HFR, Sensurround, Smell-O-Vision. Every bell and whistle that you can throw onto the movie, the theatrical experience, has been thrown onto it. And every single time, ultimately, audiences go back to 24 frames per second. I just want to watch a movie. And so if Ang Lee wants to experiment with that, that's fine. But I wouldn't go into it saying, like, I'm going to convert audiences. Like, this is the only way that audiences are going to watch a movie, because movies have been around through every phase of technological innovation for the last century, and it's almost the one thing that people have said, outside of the technology inside the films themselves, visual effects and everything else, the actual technology of watching a film is the one thing that most audiences over 100 years have said, like, we're good with this.
Yeah.
We'll play around with some stuff over here. We'll do a little Avatar Alice in Wonderland phase. But even that, which was supposed to be like, when that came out, remember, everyone was just like,
This
in 3
changes
years,
everything.
every movie's going to be in 3D because that's how audiences want to see it. No. Audiences wanted to see some movies in 3D, and then fewer movies in 3D, and then even fewer movies in 3D. And now it's available, but it's not the standard. And so I think I just am very curious to see what is the proportion of screenings on this. How many of these are going to be high frame rate, and how many of these are going to be more traditional?
Sort of connected to what you were saying about, what audiences want in terms of the filmmaking experience. Ang Lee, I'm not going to read the whole quote, Billy. But if you had put an FU San Diego in there, I would have read it. But he said, this is interesting to me. Basically, he gets into talking about what, sort of seeing what Peter Jackson was doing with frames and James Cameron. And he said, I realized that if you could get close to 120 frames per second, it would be like what you actually see. It's not a movie anymore.
Exactly.
And while Ang Lee is someone who I'm always fascinated by, and I legitimately applaud that dude. Like, I make fun of that weird Hulk movie, but like, Ang Lee's someone who you can never pin down. You can't put him in a box in terms of filmmaking. He just goes, here's my next weird idea I want to do. No matter how much you're like, will you make 8 more movies that are like Crouching Tiger or whatever? He's like, nope, I'm doing this, I'm doing Billy Flynn, I'm doing an assassin thing that's not gonna look like a movie. On one hand, I applaud him, but I agree with this. With you, Dan, sort of looking at this quote, it's not a movie. Like, I don't want to sit and watch
it reminds me
a
of
real
this,
life image.
No, it reminds me of this comedian. He was like, man, I hit him with so many punchlines, I don't even give him a chance to laugh. What?
Yeah, you're like, that's
what?
Then your timing's bad. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
It's just funny to me. It's like, we don't want the visual to change. It's like audio. It used to be mono. Now we have like Dolby Atmos, and it's like speaker coming up your butthole the whole movie, and you're like, yeah, sound is great, but don't you dare change the frame rate, because then it's weird. Like, that's strange to me. I want to know the like psychological reason. Maybe it is because it's like there's a certain level of disconnect at like 24 frames per second where it's like you're watching like a film as opposed to like 120 where it's like, what am I watching here?
Or like you said, some of those higher frame rates are traditionally, or for the last 40 years, associated with sports and live things that are real. And so he's trying to play with that aesthetic, but it's some of the stuff that I've seen Soderbergh direct recently. It's just kind of like, this looks real crummy. No, I don't.
Well, you're trying to rewire the human brain. Essentially, is you're saying your brain is trained when you're watching a television or even more so a movie, that this is how a movie looks, this is how a movie feels, this is the reality that you assign to it. And when you change that, your brain is, for most people, is struggling to keep up. Your brain is saying something's not right, something's wrong here, something's not matching up. And for me, because I've seen a few things at high frame rate, it takes you out of the immersion because your brain's saying like, wait, this isn't right. This shouldn't look like this. It'd almost be like if people said, listen, we're going to standardize, some cultures read left to right, and some cultures read right to left. And it kind of be like, we're going to standardize it. It's going to be better this way, but everyone now is going to read right to left. Well, for a while, your brain would say, wait a minute, this is not this is different. This is you have to adjust to it.
Well,
And,
it's
and
a-
it's not a one-to-one comparison, but it's sort of the same thing. You're rewiring people's brains and saying like, this thing that's always looked like this, it now looks different, and you're going to have to adjust to it. And some people just don't want to do that.
Well, yeah, it's also introducing sort of a visual metric system. You know, and everybody's just like, I don't like this. Pounds.
Meters. Has anyone shown Ang Lee Tom Cruise's PSA about
I would love to see interpolation.
I'm here to talk to you about?
I'd like to talk to you about motion blur and interpolation.
Can't even do
I
it.
love it. I love it.
Still maybe one of the that should have won an Oscar actually.
It should have. I wish that had been up for like best supporting
Or best-
actor
or, like, short
best
film.
short film,
Yeah.
best live action short film. I would have voted for Christopher McQuarrie, Tom Cruise, interpolation PSA.
Just Tom Cruise coming up and be like, motion smoothing is not smooth.
Yeah. And he like slides back off screen. I dig it, guys. That's our show. You guys feel good?
Feel good.
I feel good.
show.
Check out Movie Fights it's Wednesday today. Tomorrow at 4 o'clock live, we've got the Captain Marvel non-spoiler review. We have a Captain Marvel spoiler review where you guys had already talked for like an hour about Captain Marvel the non-spoiler. So this one's more of like a look at like what it could be setting up and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think if you pair them together, then it's a very complete picture. Some people thought, oh, why did you focus on Endgame so much? Well, it's the spoiler review. We addressed a lot in our non-spoiler reviews, but a lot of people are like, oh, you shouldn't have.
So
I
if you-
get it, but both of them together, I think, are
If you
very
only watched
complete.
the spoiler review, go back and watch the non-spoiler. I
Yeah.
thought you guys
Much
had a
more about-
really
yeah.
great discussion about the movie.
structure, plot, character, a lot of that stuff but some people don't watch both. I get it.
Hey,
It is what it is.
hey, Dan, thank you for being honest. Sorry, Adam.
Dude, and I didn't know what a meme that was till I went to look at some reviews on the internet, and people like some crumb bums and a lot of people kept saying that. And I was like, that's weird. That's a weird comment.
I'm gonna say this: people need to start using the word crumb bums more.
Bum, bum.
See you tomorrow, crumb bums.